My name is Andele Tadi. I came to the US in 2016 with my family to study, and I studied at Wheaton College in Illinois for 2 years. I did a master's degree in biblical exegesis, and then from there I moved to Western Seminary in Holland, where I'm now doing a 1-year THM program. We arrived in the US, we found an interesting contrast that in the US, a lot of people, a lot of young people, a lot of families have books that they have used and they don't need them anymore. So we visit friends, we go to places, we see books all over the place, and we're like, oh, these are really important books, but Christian literature and also books on science, education, and other things. So all of a sudden we said, we can do something. We can be a bridge between Nigeria and the US. They have books here that they don't need. Then we have people over there who are hungry for books. And so we thought that it will be an important thing to find a way of getting books together and then shipping them to Nigeria, and then actualize that dream that we had of starting a library. So we spoke to people back at home, and the community is just happy for something like that. We didn't promise them anything, but we told them about the idea of the library, and they are really happy about it. And so we started doing something like a book drive at Wheaton. And so people started giving us books, but we realized that this book needs to be shipped to Nigeria. And we also realized that it's not an easy thing to ship books. So we kind of just stopped along the way. We could not continue with that because we tried to do some findings. We found out that it's just really, the process is just really difficult. And so when we moved to Holland, we accidentally, or by divine providence, heard about TBN. So we go to Andele Church, and then one of the pastors there, I think her name is Christine, told us about TBN because we were telling her about our plan to start a library back in Nigeria. And she's like, do you know about TBN? And I was like, no, I've never heard that. And so she said, okay, go and check. So when I arrived home, immediately the first thing I did was to type TBN on Google and check, and then I saw that this is a Christian organization that, ship books to different countries around the world, especially in the majority world. They get books from the US, especially theological books, and they ship them to Africa, to Asia, and other places. And I'm like, this is a cool thing. This is really great. I need to know more about this. And so right there, I just checked the different stuff, and I saw the director, Jeff, and I saw his email, and I just emailed him that I heard about your organization, and I would like to know more about what you do. And so Jeff replied immediately and wanted me to come over with any of my friends from Africa that would like to come to the TBN building here in Grand Rapids. And so I talked to a friend of mine, Clement, who is from Ghana. And so we came, and we saw, and then we hope that we will be able to conquer. So by that I mean that we pray, and we are very hopeful that our visit to TBN will encourage TBN and our supporters to continue doing the good work they're doing in sending books to Africa. So the church in Nigeria faces many challenges. The first challenge is something I had already kind of alluded to, the challenge of persecution. So especially in northern part of the country where I come from, Christians are being killed, churches being burnt down, businesses being destroyed completely. I know I have family members who have lost their farm produce and everything, their businesses, and they are just back to ground zero. They have nothing. And so this is something that calls for prayer or any kind of help that will help people rebuild their lives. That is one. Another challenge that the church faces in Nigeria is that of poor theological background. So there are pastors in churches, but a good number of those pastors are not grounded theologically as they should. And so some of them are not able to feed the sheep as expected. They don't even have the materials. So it's a big, big challenge, theological books and even other secular books that will help people to learn. A third challenge I would like to mention, that might be the last one, that the church in Nigeria faces is the challenge of poverty. So the church finds it difficult to be able to carry out its ministry, carry out its calling of doing evangelism, discipleship, and educating people, like even starting schools, because people are just poor. And if people members are poor, they're not able to give as they should. And so that affects the church witness. Let me give an example with the ministry I was doing before I left. I did not have like a group of supporters who were like really supporting the ministry, but we went on outreach at least once in a month. And we had musical instruments, complete musical instruments, and different things like projectors. People would ask me, how did you do that? And I would say it has been God. But the reality is this. I was using my salary as a pastor to sponsor the ministry. That's what I was doing. So I will collect my pay. I will just make sure that I have enough to buy food for the family. And then all of the other money I will give for the ministry. So I was sponsoring the ministry myself. I talked to a few people to support them. But again, because of poverty, people have family members they needed to help, a lot of challenges. A few people helped, but it wasn't much help. So this is how many ministries are run in northern part of Nigeria. If you go to southern Nigeria, it's a little bit different. Southern part of the country is really rich, and if you see how they do ministry, it's just different. In the north is really, really poor. And especially northeastern Nigeria, if you can read this, you can Google this, northeastern Nigeria is the most backward, so northeast and northwest, educationally and economically. So when we do ministry, that is what we do. And so that's why when you come to a place like the U.S. and we see that there are people who have a heart for the work of God and they have a heart for fellow Christians in the majority world, we encourage them to support ministries like TBN and also to support people like us who come here, and there is something that we are already doing back there. Having been here and we see how ministry is done, and also we know how to do ministry back there, if people like us are supported, we'll be able to really do ministry effectively because we are the indigenous leaders. We understand the context, and so, but the big challenge is no resources. So poverty is a big challenge for the church. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So about TBN, the first day I read about TBN on the website of the organization, I sat down and said, so there are people that are thinking about us, really concerned about that there is need for good theological books in the majority world. And I really felt loved personally. Secondly, when I went to the office here in Grand Rapids, and my friend and I, how we were welcomed by the staff, and all of the detailed information given to us about the processes involved in, collecting books, putting them, processing them, packaging them, raising funds for shipping them, and distributing them. All of those information were really, really fascinating to me. And I in fact, I have to like hold back tears that day, because I was like, these people are not doing this to gain anything, because they don't get anything back when they do this. They're just helping us, and they need to be appreciated. So I told myself, how do we appreciate these people? And the only answer I got was just to pray for them, that God will continue to bless them, and also raise more supporters. And I also thought about all of the supporters, because I asked Jeff and the other staff, uh, um, how do you fund all of this? How do you make things happen? And I was told that churches and individuals, raise funds to be able to, make things happen at TBN. And then I learned also that libraries around the country, professors who are retiring and who are still serving, and individual, Christians and Americans, they contribute books. It's really a great thing, and I'm really touched by this. This is a great act of generosity. And I encourage that Americans continue to do this. It's very important. I've read many research works, and a lot of books and articles written about the change in the center of gravity of Christianity, moving from the north to the south, to the majority world, which is true. I can attest to this, how vibrant Christianity is back in Africa. However, as I mentioned earlier, there is a lack of theological materials that will provide a strong foundation for Christianity to really withstand whatever waves that might come. And so this ministry, in my view, is one of the most important ministry in contemporary Christianity, because Christianity is moving from North America and Europe to Africa, Latin America, and Asia. And then TBN is working very hard to provide what is needed for Christianity to grow. This is the right way to go. And so I encourage everyone to just support what TBN is doing. I'm so happy for what God is doing through TBN.